take a look at our current status as a city and put our minds and hearts together to help those in our community that are less fortunate. And we can work to have a really sustainable community that gears towards one folks are attracted to for economic development. So I welcome everyone today. Thank you so much again for coming. My name is Ryan May Lucas, and I'm here with my cohorts, Sean Hayes. Hello, everybody. Welcome, Sean Hayes. She's executive director of Henning Inc. and the founder. We're going to do some intros and backstory. And believe it or not, this is a moment for us to break bread and share stories today. So I hope that everyone gets the information that's been burning in your hearts and minds. But if not, this is where we are, and we're very much open and welcoming to anyone that can help us do this heavy lift. So thank you again. I'd also like to introduce Rob Say. Say C. Okay. Let's give him a round of applause. And these two here have been working just day and night, along with all of the Henning employees and friends of Henning, volunteers of Henning, that have helped us really operate our city's homelessness. And before we go into first slides, we'll do a little bit of origin story. So myself, known as kind of the real estate gal, in COVID, I did something really noteworthy that I wanted to do for myself, which is to become a data scientist. So I did that at WazU. So Steve Wozniak, he created a data science school, and I'm in the women's cohort. So we've solved everything from how to avoid high-speed trains hitting deer in Japan to how to predict human trafficking spikes anywhere in the world with machine learning. So I am a nerd underneath, but I am also an Alaskan, and I'm very proud to be here with all of you today.
Thank you for coming. Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Hayes, and I am the executive director, and I'm the founder of Henning Incorporated. We became incorporated in December of 2020 and started with a small case management team, and seems like overnight we have ballooned up to serving hundreds of people a year. I am the founder of the organization. I found it after a young gal that we had experienced homelessness and addiction and a lot of trauma. I watched her die in front of Bean's Cafe. And at that time, I said, enough is enough. We need to come up with another way to serve people experiencing challenges, not only homelessness, but addiction, mental illness, incarceration, and etc. Also, what's important for to know is that when I says we need a new way of doing things, I experienced homelessness. I was homeless and on the streets by the time I was 15. I was in and out of juvenile incarceration, and by the time I was 15, I was full-blown addict on drugs. And we made it through. And then throughout the years, I've had the pleasure and the honor of meeting several other people who have been down the similar path of, addiction, incarceration, things like that. And we've come out, we've recovered, and now it's our life to help people recover as well. And so for us, that was like the missing piece, was when somebody has challenges and they need help, who is better equipped to help that person? It's somebody who has been down that road. And so that being said, we've made a lot of strides, but we need the community's help. We've been operating emergency cold weather shelter. This is the second winter now, but we've been in the response for years. And quite frankly, we're just tired of seeing people suffering because decisions aren't made, things are postponed, we can't make an agreement. Well, I'm here to tell you that there are hundreds of people that are out there suffering. We need a sustainable solution. We need a year-round shelter and services. I can tell you firsthand from being the operator for the last 2 years, the struggles of standing up a huge operation within a matter of days, hiring to full capacity, right? Getting people in, starting services, assessing people, starting to make movement, right? And then we get to the spring, and then people go back out into the green belt and the camps. Not only that, I have to lay off a lot of staff members. And I would say, thank God that they came back last year to work again. We have some dedicated people in the community that are willing to work with us during the winter, take the summer off and come back because they care.
Can we give
But
a
this
round
is
of
not
applause
sustainable.
for everyone?
So we've been doing this for 2 years. I've been in the field for 10 years, and I faithfully believe that this can be solved in a short amount of time. So with that, I'll let Rob talk.
Sheesh.
Thank you.
How do you follow that up?
Sorry.
I'm Rob C., Deputy Director for Henning Inc. I'm also a person in long-term recovery, and I credit that to God of my understanding, a fellowship of people who have suffered from the same societal ills that I have, and we found a way to recover from a seemingly hopeless condition. That is my only qualification to be in doing this work that I'm doing today. In 2020, I met Sean Hayes doing this response. I was a peer support specialist for Cook Inlet Tribal Council. And before then, I think my life consisted of maybe I'll go back to school or something like that to try to be useful in my life. Quite honestly, there is just a big need. There's a huge need right now. I am a part of this peer movement where people with lived experience, maybe we weren't in position before, maybe we don't have the high accolades of high education and political will or whatever you want to call it, but we do have the lived experience. And I'm here to tell you that because we know what it takes to recover, we have the solution. The answer isn't in the government. The answer is in the people. This is a people problem. It's a people solution. And therefore, we've been able to scale up with people, like-minded people. Our staff consists of many people that probably wouldn't get hired at most places, most organizations that currently are supposed to be in charge of this thing. That kind of tells you what kind of operation we have. When Henning first started with 5 females, 5 females. And I asked Sean if she think that she could stand up the Sullivan Arena for emergency shelter, and she said absolutely. And within a week we had scaled up to 40 people. A couple months later, it was 90. Several months later, 190 people. What that tells me is that there is a power greater than ourselves that is governing this movement, what we're doing. We're here to stay. We're here with purpose. We're here with vision. We're here with a mission. My only goal today is to take the politics out of this and let's get something sustainable, year-round, low-barrier shelter that can help fill at least a portion of this big problem that we have today. So thank you all for coming.
Awesome. Thank you. Since I started off today introducing myself as a nerd, we're going to actually do a little interactive exercise together. Okay, so how many of us know someone personally experiencing homelessness? Can you raise your hand? Can the camera see how many people have raised their hand? This is what we call a sample of our community, of a data set. This is how many of us know someone personally. Thank you. You can put your hands down. How many of us know someone that is on the verge of homelessness? So they might be surfing a couch. They might be looking for a rental. Okay. How many of us know someone, whether housed or unhoused, is suffering from addiction or mental health? Thank you. This is the reality of our current problem. Can we do the first slide? Thank you. So today, the problem that we're looking to solve is With a shortage of low barrier shelter space in Anchorage, it puts lives at risk. Okay, so for myself, just being an owner's rep for Henning, the first thing we do as a data scientist is we want to go make observations. Okay, so observations, just like when you're in science class, in your lab, you're going to go around and see what's happening out there to your data set, which is our community. And what are the policies in place that classify an emergency sheltering necessity in a community? So if the temperature drops to a freezing level, then people need to be under building, which is quite simple for all of us to grasp. But our objectives today are three things. The three things are to understand the current situation and level of urgency that we need for low barrier shelter, meaning anyone that's outside can be under building. The second objective is to evaluate performance-based metrics and key performance indicators for us to tell us how we're doing. And the third is based on the analysis of the performance data. We can take corrective actions such as making operational changes, reallocating resources, and redefining our goals and objectives. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here in Alaska, we thought that we would be safe due to global warming and that it would already be spring right now and all the snow would be melted. But the reality is it's not. We are still averaging 29 degrees in April based on a 3-year average of our temperatures in Anchorage. And approximately 900 people are currently being abated from Anchorage cold weather shelters. This is not a matter of preference from an administration or a political body. This is a reality based on the seasonality of what classifies as emergency shelter. So if we had warmer temperatures, the urgency wouldn't be as critical as we have here in Anchorage or throughout Alaska. We also need funding to keep cold weather shelter operating that has currently been withheld. So what you have seen is here in Anchorage, we've been working very hard to say, please keep the cold weather shelter open year round. And in order to do that, whether it's donors from the community that want to participate in this effort, or it's state funds, or it's city funds, or it's federal funds, wherever the funds come from, we have to keep the shelter open. And that's the point of the messaging today. It's not a matter of policy. The third is after this year's cold weather shelter is fully abated, these properties are not necessarily available. We don't know currently for next year. Let me explain. So the cold weather shelter now is currently approximately 200 people in the Anchorage Waste building. And that shelter is, again, funded based on, are we in an emergency or are we not? We're here in the spring, okay, and there's still snow outside. The second is the Aviator Hotel, which is under renovation. And the season that we have in Alaska that we all understand is when our tourists begin to show up, which is also why a privately owned hotel, the Alex, which is the third location for emergency, is privately owned, and that owner is ready to take on tourists. So abatement basically means these 900 people that were under building are being released into the community. And the last point is that the continuation of an approved plan, at least that's what I could gather online because I'm a nerd that is on there looking for information, that the continuation of an approved plan to erect a cold weather shelter and prevent deaths have been halted by politicizing a known solution that works in emergency sheltering, which is sprung structures. So we further dug deeper to see what are sprung structures. Well, being a commercial real estate gal in Alaska, we have 70 sprung structures throughout our state, and Sprung, as a manufacturer's largest client, is the Department of Defense, which means everything and person that the military needs can be under those structures soundly. Okay, that's what we do know. What the design of the building is going to be underneath, whether we get a permit or not, I will testify today that without the safety and health mechanisms in place for buildings, no one can go inside. Okay, so that's the first thing that we wanted to share with everyone today. Next slide. Okay, so the next thing, which was really an interesting exercise for us to do in collecting data, is that there is a common database that every provider is using called HMIS, which stands for
Homeless Management Information System.
Thank you, Homeless Management Information System. So all providers throughout the United States are reporting in there, and that's exactly where we asked Henning, can you please let us go behind the scenes and get a snapshot of your data? So here you will see that in those 3 locations that I described, that over 1 year period, Henning has served 2,600 out of 3,200 total homeless members of our community. We also wanted to go to our next data point, which is how much historically has it cost for you to operate and to serve this population. The cost we were able to confirm is $60 per person, although depending on whether there's requirements for staffing ratios or other variables that are required to keep people in the building, that number can fluctuate, and the highest is $68. Okay, so this is the data that, again, we went through and just analyzed Henning's numbers as an operator. And then again, back to our research. We can't research everything at one time, especially in this assignment, but we were able to see that collectively through the coalition's dashboard, which was very helpful, that we can also see $100 per person per day to keep under building. So somewhere the sustainable answer lies between $60 per person per day and $100 per day, which is what we call a range. For those of us that love math or are being refreshed. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so we were very enthused that Henning was fully open to allow us to go through their data. And we found that there were 655 Alaskans that are currently in shelter that are having barriers to housing. Okay, so barriers to housing basically means whatever reason someone can't get into either transitional housing or long-term housing, be it a 6-month to a 12-month lease. We found multiple barriers. One of the largest is there's a list called the Do Not Rent list. So if you're late on your rent over a month, you might have a bad credit score, or maybe you're in between jobs or you're a student at the university, you are competing for rentals amongst those that make a combined household income of $75,000 or more, with perhaps higher credit scores or more a stronger application than some of those 655 Alaskans that are looking for housing. Okay, so the next is that we looked at how many Alaskans in shelter are actually eligible for housing. So through Henning's peer support and housing support specialists, their process is to walk beside every person under their care, which you'll see that on the front page of everything they do. And for those of you who haven't had a chance to visit Henning's operations, it is an eye-opener to see how it works. So please, I encourage everyone that take a field trip in the middle of the day and see that everything is walking beside peers with those that have lived experience and are part of our community. So because of the difficulty of the barriers to get into housing, Henning has taken their own financial risk in real estate, which is serving as a bridge between landlords that could have vacancy and those vacancy. They're saying, I'm unsure if I would lease to any of your clients, quite frankly. That could cause damage to my property. That could cause damage to my other tenants. I don't know if the people under building are receiving the care and case management that I take on their application for housing. So what Henning has done is they've taken that risk as a business to say, I'll be financially liable for all my clients under building. And that's how we see that Henning is processing so many people. If you, again, take a field trip and follow that guy around, what he does all day is on the phone 24/7, connecting people to where they can live. Okay. And that means it doesn't matter in the wintertime, it doesn't matter where and who, as long as you answer the phone, Henning is in response. There are some people in this room that have pulled people off of the street that are my age, okay, early 40s, that are working age and that I went to school with at the University of Alaska, that are homeless, that are in transition, that are our workforce, okay, and Henning will answer the phone to make sure that those people are taken care of. So just wanted to share that. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is where I get out of my expertise and we'll refer over to the operator, but let's go ahead and look at the framework of Henning's operating model.
Great, thank you for this. Okay, so obviously we know our framework is we are peers. So probably all of us on the team, from floor staff to senior leadership, even our board, has that lived experience. So we have experienced some kind of challenge, and we have overcome that challenge. So I give preference when I'm hiring. When I have a position open, I give preference to somebody who has the lived experience, somebody who's been experienced homelessness. I love hiring people that have left incarceration, right? Those are the folks that nobody wants to give a second chance to. We give them that chance. Genuine peer support, sharing our stories, telling people, yep, I've been down the same road that you have. This is what I've done. So what we do when somebody enters the shelter, we do a 2-page assessment that just asks some really pertinent questions. And so if they identify as, they said like, hey, I've been incarcerated, or I've have, substance abuse challenges, they are matched with somebody who has been through that same challenge. And we have found that it's been very effective. Because if you, let's say, for instance, that you just get out of prison, right, and you don't know you're having troubles navigating the system, and like I said, people won't give you a second chance. Would that person want to work with somebody with that master's degree and that, maybe they have that college degree, or somebody who has been through the same system that has, come through? So that has just really worked in favor of our mission. I want to share a quick story because I think it's really pertinent for people to know. Emergency housing vouchers were distributed throughout Anchorage. So back in 2022, we had a first group of nine chronically homeless men come to the Aviator. They had a voucher in their hand for 9 years, but they had nothing else. They didn't have IDs. They had the clothes on their back. That was it. And we thought this is a great opportunity to, start our model, right? So our housing specialist team, they got folks. They got them stabilized. They got them their IDs. They got them birth certificate. We had one guy that was from Hawaii. He had absolutely nothing, so we had to get birth certificate, get his social security straightened out. He had one missing leg. Anyway, we had a guy that was sight and vision impaired. It was just a mess. And so we got them their IDs, got them stabilized. Then we got the one guy with a leg into the Mountain View Health Clinic. They got him fitted with a prosthetic, right? So you see the difference in people, these 9 guys, right? And they're walking around with their head up. One gets a haircut. He's looking great. And, they all came to us and said, man, we want to work. Can you help us find a job? And knowing that there were going to be barriers, right? And that we would work really hard to get them a job. Of course, we'll do the work, but we thought, well, we're opening up the Sullivan Arena. Let's just hire them for our janitorial team. And, they are still working with us.
Not only are they working with us, they of one of our master leased units, sixplex that's in Spenard, they all live in the same quarters. This has been, like I said, we've scaled this in this space, but we believe that with support, we can scale it in a much larger, more robust way.
Okay, so what is the ask? Today it's a pledge. Henning has 3 areas that they would like to pledge to this community. The first is that Henning erects a building right-sized for Anchorage sheltering operations. So that's utilizing either existing site and materials or alternate. The key is that Henning erects a building that's right-sized for Anchorage based on our actual data and need. Number 2 is that Henning makes case management efficient with transparent reporting of its results. So we have listed here number 2, which is an efficient case management effort with transparent reporting of its results. And by having data transparency, it eliminates unnecessary competition between providers. And the last pledge is that Henning, as they've done and proven, will take what we would consider a tax burden and make into a taxpayer in our community. And that's the peer support model that speaks for itself. Can every one of Henning's employees that are here with us please raise your hand? This is Alaska's workforce. Can we give them a round of applause? Okay, next slide. All right, so what's next? The next is scope and limitations to the scope, which we can't do it all today because we promised you that we would be on time and let you go back to your respective places. But the first is that from a cost to weight perspective, today the cost of delay in erecting sustainable cold weather shelter is human life. It's not dollars. The second is that government is not the shelter operator. The operator is in the room. Nor are we asking government to be an expert in programming or in building design. We'll ask the operator. And the last is the decision to shelter Alaskans should be non-political. And we invite active contributors to erecting a year-round shelter to join us in collaborative action so that we don't have endless ideation, political debates at the extent of human life. And that's our ask for today. Next slide. Okay, so let's see how we're doing on time. We're going to do a Q&A, and how we're going to do this is maybe we'll just go by the hands, and whoever wants to ask a question. Again, we're trying to keep everyone on time. And if you don't get your question asked today, please talk to any of the folks here that raised their hand. Can my team raise their hand as well? Coworkers in the building, if you want to help. Okay, thank you, as well as Henning. Raise your hand. Okay, these are the folks that we're going to stick around and have a chance to mingle and get to know each other. But for now, let's go ahead and open it for questions. Karen.
So right size, I want more specifics on right size. To me, is no larger than 150. And I know that there's far more people who are experiencing homelessness that need support, but I also recognize the larger the facility gets, the more difficult it is to manage. So what's right size?
We agree with that because we've experienced both. We have experienced when the Sullivan was at 500. Yeah, it was very challenging. But when shelters between 150 to 200, it's a lot. I mean, it's safer. It's more effective. I mean, I can't go on and on about how much Yeah, we had to go up to 500 because we didn't want people freezing to death. But it was extremely challenging.
Yeah, and I think when we were talking, I know the big question is everybody's talking about is the sprung structure, and in those plans, it was scaled to shelter 200 people, but in emergency situations to be able to scale up to 500. So in emergency situation, we would have to do what we have to do to keep people alive, but 200 is definitely the ideal situation.
Yes.
First of all, I'm a member of the media. I just want to differentiate myself from some of the other folks here. A few months ago, many of us in this room were in a different room at the Anchorage Coalition to End Homelessness, where they brought folks up from Houston to talk about a housing first model. Does this fit in with that?
Yes.
How can you explain that?
Absolutely. So housing, if you were listening to the presentation that Houston did, housing first doesn't mean housing only. It's housing with services. Effectively, if a navigation center was built, we could have somebody come in, we assess, we provide the right intervention, and then we transition them into the appropriate housing situation. Whether that be somebody that needs 24/7 permanent supportive housing, or if it's somebody that just needs a hand up, needs a job, maybe some light case management. But to have a place to be able to determine that, housing first does not mean just you're going straight to a house. It means to be appropriately assessed, given the support that you need to do well to on a path of independence. For everybody, it's different. It's not this black and white thing. To where, because I think, my experience talking to landlords, that's been the problem. They've been told, hey, if you house this individual, we're going to give them case management. That has not been the experience for most landlords. In my opinion, and this is the thing, I'm new to this. I'm 3 years into this, but develop these relationships with landlords and then connecting them, getting them understanding, and giving yourself understanding too of what housing first really is. It's housing people with the correct support that they need so they can be on a path of independence.
Thank you. Yes. Immigrate. Yes.
Roger Granson. I sat through this meeting so far, and I've heard the speakers say lots of glowing things about themselves and about their employees and about the people here in the room. I still don't know what you're proposing, and more than that, I don't know what the budget is. Is there a budget, and what will the outcome of that money be? And this speaks to the theory of change that the Mental Health Trust Authority started brought forth 10 years ago. Was that you propose to change to do something, then you have a budget, and then you have a way to measure and meter it. We've got the HMIS, the Alaska Statewide HMIS, that the state and participants have worked really hard and collected the data. How will that utilize that data? How will it interchange with it? And what will the cost of that change be? That is the theory of change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, right off the gate, I can tell you this. We've ran shelter for the last 2 years in the emergency shelter, right? What we don't have is a building that we can do that effectively. The same money that we've been putting into the same program dynamics that we've done at the Sullivan Arena, that we've done at the solid waste services, cold weather shelter. It's the same scale of operation. We'll just be in a new building. Very simple.
Very simple. Yes.
Yarrow Slivers, Alaska Current. Where is the money coming from? Are you wanting to get money from the municipality, donations? Where is it coming
Sure.
from, and who is
Absolutely.
donating?
Great question. So whenever a building is erected, there's something called a capital stack. Okay, so the building that we're in can be a combination of actual cash, financing, but in this case, we have a nonprofit that can also include donation or grants. That's how buildings get erected. Okay, so for how is something to get funded, it's a mix of different types of funds. That's why we're here to basically make this open to the public. Thank you.
So you don't know at this point.
We're still investigating what the right sized project would be for this effort. Yes. Thank you, Ron.
Ron, I live adjacent to the Brother Francis shelter for 42 years. I'm familiar with the homeless issue. It's the tent. I commend the mayor who say it's not political, but I've gone through 6 administrations, and this one has done the most. So, hey, leadership, not elected officials, will solve homeless problems. And one sitting right over there doing a good job and needs to continue.
Thank you.
I should run for mayor.
Actually,
He'll let you.
It's all right. The question is a dead asset. No one could go to a bank and say, give us $4.9 million and not pay it back and say it's a clean slate. That's basically irresponsible use of funds. That tent sits in Oregon. It needs to get up here and get erected. And I think Henning would be a good manager of that facility. Where you locate it, hey, is close to the navigation center. And I offered my property for the erection of that tent because the navigation center is the road to solving the homeless crisis. So how are we gonna get that tent up here and utilize that dead asset?
thank you. Thank you. All right. So one thing I'd like to kind of comment on Mr. Leva, who has been in the commercial real estate space. He is a pillar in real estate, let me tell you. He even has kids that he's passed on his legacy to that I work with every day. He is correct. Whenever you're looking at a solution, you're looking for the shortest route, okay, which this current executive team, okay, it's not just one individual, including us, that has come on, quite frankly, pro bono to solve the problem in 3 weeks because we're abating. That effort requires an entire team to determine which location, how fast we can get it up, what materials we have to work with. And there are people, commercial designers, engineers, attorneys, all of these professionals that work with us in commercial real estate to find our critical path. Okay, so what we're asking and what we've been behind the scenes doing over the last month's effort is what is our shortest path, because we can no longer afford the cost to wait. Period. Can we please give a round of applause for the mayor's team that has worked on this? Thank you. All right, next question. Yes, in the back.
My name is Jason Novotny, everyone. I just recently started a foundation called Joe's House Foundation. Sean and I have met several times. We're partnering on this, and what I'm doing is investing in real estate, single-family homes, and starting basically a sober living home for shared housing. And the reason I'm doing this is because back in June, my family lost my brother. He was 33. He was a combat vet. He was on drugs. He left a wife behind and 4 daughters with multiple women, and he ended up homeless in Wasilla. And it's a sad situation, but so what we're doing, I'm a general contractor, and I own my company, and we've been really successful the last couple of years, and I've taken a lot of money and donated to the foundation, and I want to be part of the community, part of the cause, and contribute to this. So we are taking this aggressively on and shining a big spotlight on this program, And I'm looking forward to this being a super successful program and being a part of what Sean is doing here. And I just wanted to get that out there, make everybody aware.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So last time we were contemplating erection of the sprung structure, I think the budget was around $20 million to complete the build up. Sorry, so last time we were discussing erecting the sprung shelter, the budget estimated cost to actually build it up and bring it up to operational status was around $20 million. You talked about, opportunities to target funding from different sources. Are you guys still, is $20 million the target you're looking to raise to do the work? And
Great.
If
I'll
not
take
that, what is the number and how close are you guys? And do you have a timeline when you think you can actually get to 20 million or whatever it is?
Okay, so I'll take that as a real estate professional. So we actually have the expert in the room. Okay, Lynn, would you mind sharing? Thank you.
Sure. My name is Lynn Barrett, and I'm a commercial designer by trade, but I specialized in building technology solutions for the last 23 years. I'm sad to say most of my projects are not in the state of Alaska for exactly the challenges that we're facing today in getting the sprung structure up here. I know the sprung folks very well. I've spoke with them. All the material is sitting in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and in Salt Lake City. It can be shipped up here in 5 days. The problem is that the building permit office will not accept the seismic certification, which they will follow. Seismic D, that is of California, Washington, Oregon. They can do it, but their hands are tied because they've been told to stop. So there's your challenge, but we can get it here.
Thank
And
you.
I looked at the drawings. I don't know how big were those drawings. I couldn't
From the
even
depths of the internet,
see. Yeah.
we look for drawings at.
Even with reading glasses and contacts. I'm going, okay.
We're trying our
But
best to
I
look
already
through
saw
it.
right off the bat how to value engineer and save costs on that.
Thank you.
So I believe we can get it here, but still $20 million.
So key, exactly what Lynn testified to. That needs to be value engineered. That $20 million being the closing number, I will tell you, because it's my responsibility as an owner's rep to make sure that the organizations I represent don't put themselves in a financial bind that is over leveraged, period.
And, just kind of going over the costs, as you can see, the scale of what we're talking about, shelter operations, this has been across the board $100 a day. We're telling you that we can do it for $60 a day. And that's what we've been doing for the last 2 years. So that cuts into the cost dramatically.
So that's the operational cost. That's completely outside the $20 million to build it. And then, okay, value engineering, what are we talking, 15, 10, 18? I mean, when are we going to get that number? And when are we going to see a plan that says, here's how we think we can get to whatever it is, $15 million?
Absolutely. Thank you. So that exercise, Zach, that's what we're asking for the buy-in today. We're allowing that exercise
We
to
need to
happen.
clarify some numbers.
Thank you.
The $20 million is at 70,000 square feet. It's at 29.5 now.
A little bit louder,
Yeah,
please.
it's just a matter of accuracy. The 20 million was based on 70,000 square feet, and it's at 29.5 right now. So it's a completely different scale. So, and that came for a facilitated process. For those of you who were here a couple of years ago, it was brought down. It was basically half size, a little less than half size. So that's why the price differential. So it's the 20 that's a two-year-old number.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
I mean, I'll see the fly. I hope we can get to what the actual number looks like and look at a real plan. These are great ideas. I love what you guys are looking at aspirationally, but we need a lot more meat to this, I think, before we can really seriously
We
contemplate
agree.
it.
We agree. Yes.
To follow up a little bit on that, if you are talking about a downsized structure from the original, and you agree 150 is an ideal number, maybe it's 200, maybe it's 400. The downsized structure would enable what exactly?
So the downside structure is actually the structure, the plans that we've been looking at. So the downside structure that you're talking about scales from 200 can go up to 500 in emergency situations. So I think the original plans that you guys had fixated on with maybe 1,000 people. That's not the plans that we're talking. The downsized plans are scaled for 200 to 500 in emergency situations.
Thank you. Yes. We'll take one more question. Karen?
Well, I just, I'm curious, I'm confused as to why, Mr. Mayor, you had to have had a pretty good plan.
Mhm.
Why have they not seen it? You know, they say they're looking at on the internet, looking at little mock drawings of it. Are they able to see the plans that you were looking at in real, you know?
We have internal plans. And so we're not talking about a theoretical building here. It's a building that exists. It's just in storage, and it's stored on, it comes up in sequence of 15 vehicles, 50, and it's constructed as it's built. We have the internal workings of it. We have the furnishings. We have the HVAC is still a question because I think that went to solid waste service building, the new one. So remember, this building was done. It was approved. It was budgeted. We spent $2.8 million for it. We own it, and we started concrete. So this thing had been budgeted, had been appropriated, and it went through the public process. No one questioned the CUP, and that was the last phase. No one questioned that. So we even began construction. That was before your time, Karen, before you were on the assembly. So yeah, we're talking about a different building. I just wanted to make sure the scale was right. Not 70,000 square feet is what, 29.5 is 29,500 square feet.
Yeah. And Karen, to further answer that question, we're relying on the manufacturer in regards to, is that building that's in storage, is that an asset that we can work off of? That's where we got our verification. And mind you, our work has only been over 1 month.
Right.
Okay, so we are rushing. This team in here knows that we've been here late hours, after hours, to get to even where we are today. We are going as fast as we can and putting other work aside to answer that question. Can we erect a building? How long is it going to take? How much is it going to cost? And this current team inside the executive team at the city has done everything to give us every piece of information we can look at in the feasible amount of time. So I will say that in the process of erecting a building, all of that due diligence is going to be done over and over and over again, all the way until the building's value engineered at the lowest cost possible and erected.
Can I just?
Yes.
I want to just ask one more thing. I'm seeing Diane sitting there. The communities that I represent really want to, as you solidify these plans, they're going to need to know with great assurance of how you are going to protect the perimeter area. We have seen what happened around the Sullivan Arena. We know the spillover. If you can't get into the shelter, you march to the nearby woods. And that's a very vulnerable area. That's a powder keg, and they have a single lane, single road going up. They're very concerned. So I know you can't answer those questions now, but as you solidify plans, there needs to be a really solid, how are we going to protect the surrounding community?
Actually, we did work on that part of the design review last night, Karen.
Okay.
So it's because it's fresh in our minds about the perimeter. Sean, and Rob, do you want to testify to that in the operation?
So there were this similar concerns when we started operating the Golden Lion, with the former Golden Lion, which is now housing for 80 individuals. And so what I did was I put together a pretty robust neighborhood engagement plan. I met with the community councils. I met with the churches, the businesses, and presented the plan. They have our phone numbers. Fortunately, they haven't had a call. Because we have a really good program, or not program, but we have a really good housing facility over there. So that being said, with this, I would do the same thing. Start engagement, good neighbor plan, and work that plan.
And, to couple that, I think, you got to realize the Sullivan Arena was never intended to be a shelter. Solid waste station was never intended to be a shelter. This building is intended to be a shelter. So optics wise, security wise, those things are all considerations that have been talked about, been implemented in this design. So, I would much rather delve into security into a place that it was actually built for this facility instead of something like the Sullivan Arena.
Thank you.
Renee?
I'm Renee Kennicott. I live by the Sullivan Arena, and I just want to say, when the Sullivan was turned into the emergency shelter, there was no plan put in place for the neighborhood. So we had to fight. Penny was great at listening. I mean, I've talked to Rob and Sean multiple times. What was given as appropriation funds from the assembly was not adequate. The help that was given from the assembly, it was not adequate at all. We were not listened to. The security that came around was not even allowed to do anything. In the end, it was Henning that actually took it upon themselves to help the community. So I just want to put that out there. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I just want to, again, I can't stress enough that this is our community. It's not his community, her community. It's all of our community. So please, as you exit today, grab a card, grab a pamphlet, exchange numbers with the people that are here, and let's all put in another, all of our gusto to basically get to our critical path, get to our solution, and make sure that no Alaskan is outside by the time that winter hits. Thank you, everyone.
Considering if you found that the cost of putting this up, once you really dig into the numbers, it's more complicated.